Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to discuss negotiating job offers. My name is Desiree Williams, and I serve AKSI as the Digital Education Coordinator, and I will be your webcast producer. Before we get started with our program, let's review the web-based features available to you. This webinar will be advanced remotely, but at the bottom of your screen, there are multiple application widgets you can use throughout the program. If you're watching this webinar on a mobile device, you may need to scroll down or over on your screen to see these widgets. Each window on your screen is customizable as well, so feel free to resize and move them to fit your needs. A copy of the slideshow and other additional materials are available in the green Resource List widget. If you have any technical difficulty, please click on the Help widget with the question mark icon. And lastly, if you have a question throughout the program, please type that into the Q&A widget. Any questions not addressed during the presentation or in the Q&A portion at the end will be responded to via email. The job search process can be daunting, especially as a graduating senior or a recent grad, but the process itself is only a few steps. Prepare your materials, search for open positions, apply, interview, and accept the offer. The previous webinars in this series explored tips for creating resumes and cover letters, searching and applying for open positions, and interviewing behaviors. Today we will delve deeper into the last step of the process, which is negotiating and accepting an offer. For more information, be sure to check out our other webinars in the Job Search Essentials series. You just nailed a job interview and you feel like an offer phone call is coming your way. It's an exciting time, but do you know how to negotiate your salary and benefits to really get the compensation that you deserve? During today's webinar, we will dispel some myths of salary negotiations and discuss how to apply negotiating techniques so you can put yourself on a path to a successful career. Now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Elizabeth Price. Elizabeth is an HR and leadership professional with more than 25 years of experience in the public and private sectors. She holds a bachelor's degree from Central Michigan University and is pursuing a master's degree now. Elizabeth is currently a talent acquisition specialist advisor for General Dynamics IT. She is responsible for implementing human resource management strategies that enable the team to recruit, train, and retain a high-performing and motivated workforce. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her husband, family, and friends, as well as volunteering in her community and with Alpha Kappa Psi, where she is currently a regional manager of membership.
Thanks, Desiree. So let's talk about negotiating. We all want more money or better benefits, but not many people want to negotiate for it. Even if they want more or know they deserve more, people often accept the offer as presented for a variety of reasons. JobVite recruiting software company released a survey in 2018 and found that only 1/3 of individuals who completed the survey negotiated the salary for their current or most recent job. Of those who did, over 60% were successful in getting a higher salary, with over maybe 20% netting at 11 to 20% higher than the original offer. The reality is companies don't start off by offering high salaries and benefits. Companies are in the business to make money, not give it out. So their job is to hire you at the lowest salary they can get you to pay. To be sure you are getting what you deserve, candidates have to know their worth and the realistic expectations of the job and then negotiate for the fair compensation. So what does the process look like? You had the interview, and now they have extended you the offer. But what's the next step? Some of the key things to do when going through negotiations. 1, do not accept the offer on the spot, whether that's during an interview or during a phone call afterward. 2, listen to them, but don't give an answer right away. If it's your first job offer on a position you were extremely excited for, it is going to be difficult to keep your emotions in check. Accepting an offer on the spot can hurt you later down the line. Next, before you accept, you need time. Ask if you can give 24 to 40 hours to think about it. First, review the acceptance package they are offering and ensure there isn't anything you don't agree to, can't comply with, or that you want to negotiate. For example, signing bonus or benefits package. You want to make sure you have medical, dental, and vision, retirement options, continuing education assistance, or relocation assistance if you're far away, transportation or parking if you're going to be commuting, additional items you may need. Then you will want to do some additional research in preparation before getting back to them with your answer. It doesn't matter if it's your first job or if the position was your only offer. Everyone can negotiate. Employers invest so much time into their interview process, so when it comes to offering the position, they want the interviewee to accept. They don't want to have to go back through other applicants, so even entry-level candidates have some negotiating power. Having two offers always allows you to use the other as leverage, but even without an extra, you can still negotiate. So how do you know what you're worth? Here are some factors to consider. What do you have to offer? What is your track record? What is realistic for your experience, location, and position? While you shared your accomplishments during the interview, remind the employer of your accomplished as well as your skill set and experience is worth to the company. Now, if you have a great deal of experience, emphasize your consistent track record and that you won't need much training. Highlight the large-scale projects you've accomplished in the past and how they were able to impact an organization and that you will be able to do the same for them. Now, if you are just starting out and may need more training, listen, emphasize different skills you bring to the table, such as time management, your college courses, internships. Discuss upcoming technology skills and how quickly you learn and pick up on things. Entry-level employees bring creativity and fresh perspectives. Point out your skill sets. Show how those can help the company financially. This can also support your request for a higher salary. And lastly, if you were presented with an offer that is more than you expected, please don't jumpstart to accept. If they offered you more than you were expecting, you're either 1, underestimating yourself, or 2, underestimating the responsibilities of the role. Make sure you understand what you're walking into. Don't sell yourself short and start a job with a similar or smaller paycheck than others who are doing the same work. To ensure that that doesn't happen, do your research. Compensation varies greatly company to company, job to job, and city to city. So it's important to do your research ahead of time to know what to expect and what flexibility you have. For example, the average salary in San Francisco is more than $62,000, but it's also one of the most expensive places to live. Sites such as Glassdoor and PayScale, they can provide some information on salary data for someone with your experience and background, but it is general data. For the most up-to-date, reliable information, reach out to your fellow professional to identify a reasonable offer for the position based on your experience, as well as the location, and most importantly, your budget. Remember that location will play a key factor. But understand the same position in San Francisco is likely going to pay more than a small town in Iowa due to the cost of living. If you need to relocate for the position, be sure to allocate for moving expenses. When developing your case, consider what benefits are most important to you. You can negotiate more than just your salary. Some other benefits include your start date, paid time off, flexible hours, ability to work from home, relocation assistance if it's applicable for the role, professional development opportunities, whether it's conferences, memberships, or even some certifications if needed, tuition assistance or reimbursement, an expense account if you have to travel. Continuous feedback. Ask for a 30, 60, 90-day review. Is that tied into any performance review bonuses? My favorite is wellness and fitness programs. It's not always about the dollar amount, but how you can improve your work-life balance and what will put you in a better position to do your job. It is truly more money than you want, or would different benefits such as tuition assistance or flexible hours mean more for you in the long run? When it comes time to have the conversation, you don't want to ask for exactly what you're hoping to get. Leave yourself some wiggle room and ask for a little higher. As you go back and forth with your employer, asking for more helps you land where you need to be or even a bit higher. So what's the best way to prepare for this conversation? Aside from preparing through research, you need to mentally prepare yourself as well. So before you go into the meeting or phone call, Make sure you're confident. Just like any meeting or conversation, the more confident you are going in, the better you will perform. Before the meeting, practice with friends or family to help you decrease your nervousness and follow the conversation to feel more natural. Don't focus on the past. During negotiations, certainly draw from previous experience to show how you have done, but don't let your previous salary or experience hinder what you're going to be able to do. Revealing your salary history can cost you, and in many places, it is now illegal for companies to even ask you. So keep your previous salary to yourself and focus on what you are capable of doing for the company, and most important, what would be appropriate salary for that position. Prioritize your requests. Not only do you need to know what features is most important to you, but the employer needs to know too. Phrasing your negotiation in terms of priority can facilitate a compromise if the companies can meet your top needs. Be kind, but yet firm. Remember that ideally you want to be working for the individual you're negotiating with. So don't begin your employment on the wrong foot. Be kind during these conversations, but yet firm. Know what your bottom line is, and don't be afraid to walk away if they're unable to meet it. Negotiations often involve some give and take to arrive at a compromise between both parties. So it's important during this time to maintain open communication with your employer. Often one party will have more leverage to help push negotiation one way or the other. It may be the employer, if they can afford to wait and hire someone cheaper. Or it may be you, if you have a specific skill set the employer needs. During the conversation, remember to focus on your communication and presentation. Let's talk about a few skill sets that are vital for these conversations. Number 1, active listening. Listen to the other party to understand their point, so you know how to respond with a new offer that both sides can agree to. Speaking effectively and concisely. Poor verbal communication can make you appear weak or confused. Be confident. Don't use words that you don't normally use. Decision making. Know what you want and stand firm in that decision. Yet remain flexible if the result is not exactly what you hoped. Being willing to take a different offer can help you get closer to what you want. Problem solving. Consider the benefit to the other party and how the negotiation can help them. Keeping in mind their perspective will help you better frame the proposal to meet everyone's needs. Emotional intelligence. It's important to read a situation to identify when it's right to push forward or to pull back. Being able to read the person in a situation can help you from losing negotiations. Sometimes women hold back from negotiating out of fear of appearing too aggressive. Regardless of gender, appearing too overbearing is inadvisable. However, if you can handle the situation using your problem-solving skills to strike an effective and positive deal for both you and the employer, this will grow the relationship from a positive spot. Negotiation will also demonstrate to your employer that they have selected the best applicant for the role. In everything that you do, remember, humility will get you further than anything. Now, after the conversation, there are a few possible outcomes. If your boss says yes immediately to your proposal, it isn't a cause to celebrate. More likely, this means you didn't ask for enough and could have asked for more. Now, if your boss says no, you can always revise your approach and continue to try and to negotiate. You can just accept their offer, or you can choose to walk away if they're unable to meet your needs. Being told no does not mean it was a mistake to try. It can mean that they were unable to meet your request, even if you had a good reason. What you have done by trying to negotiate is show that you are willing to be assertive and that you know how to negotiate, which are both valuable skills to an employer. It will also help you in the future to better understand how salaries and benefits are determined and how you can negotiate more effectively in the future. While you should have a general idea of what you can accept before going into interviews, you must know your limits before beginning the negotiation. You need to be realistic in the terms of knowing what companies will offer, what are you worth, and what you need to offset living expenses. Again, don't be afraid to walk away from a position if it does not match.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for a fantastic presentation. Before we transition into the Q&A portion, let's go over the key skills that we touched on today. By reviewing comparable salaries and benefits, you will improve your research skills. After participating in negotiations, you will have gained oral communication, listening and comprehension, and emotional intelligence skills as you focus on your internal feelings, understand how to control them, and best communicate with your potential employer. Navigating the entire process will also increase your confidence as you learn to assure yourself and your abilities to do the job and ideally increase your earning potential. And at this point, we are going to transition to questions. If you have questions that aren't addressed now, please type those into the Q&A widget and you'll receive an answer via email. So to get started with our first question, Elizabeth, when is the right time to negotiate?
During your actual interview. Oftentimes, people don't realize that when you're at the interview, if you have any questions pertaining to the salary at that time, ask, because then that starts the process in your mind what the range is and what you should be looking for, or rather, even if you should be looking for them to call you back and continue on.
Absolutely. And nowadays, technology is used for job applications and interviews quite a bit. So if you receive an email offer, how do you really begin that negotiation?
I always tell people that whatever you put in writing, it is never erased. So if you have questions about a particular offer, and before you put it in writing, ask the recruiter or the manager if they had time to talk, that you had a couple questions. So therefore, you have not put anything in writing that is going to keep you stuck or take you out of the range for the hiring offer process.
Okay. Moving on to our next question. How do you know if you're asking for too much or too little?
You never know. At one point, I used to say, oh, you will know. You will never know. Because if you're talking to someone over the phone, because of technology, we do Skype, we do telephone, we do, not necessarily telephone, let's do Skype, and actually we go online to do the email communication. During that particular time, you can't see the nonverbal communication. Now, if you're good at listening, you can tell the difference in the tone of the recruiter or the hiring manager, whether this is within your range or not. But to be honest, you will never know. So that's why doing your homework and your research prior to and knowing the range and understanding that once you put the number out there and you have what your bottom line is, be able to stick to that.
Sometimes employers will indicate up front that there is little to no room for negotiation. Is it worth it to still try?
At one point, I used to say yes. And the reason that I would say yes is that if they really like you and if you knock that interview out of the park, they may have some flexibility. But if their firm is saying absolutely none and you already know what your bottom line is, you then have to decide to walk away. Or if you want the position so much and you're willing to accept the position that's lower, understand that that decision is going to keep you in that bandwidth. And sometimes it's a challenge to get out of that hole.
And a lot of our students are young professionals or they're just graduating for their first full-time job. So what do you suggest is the best method to begin the negotiation conversation that first time around?
Okay, so you're a first-time graduate. You have an idea of what you want to do, what your career path looks like. I need you to first do the homework and find out what steps, which direction in order to get you to the end goal that is going to be best for you. Only apply for opportunities that you know is going to be a fit. The worst thing you can do is apply to an organization and you apply to like 10 different roles, but you're only really interested in one. Apply for that one role that you're interested in. And if it's another one that will take you in that direction, do it. So my example giving that is, one, know what you're looking for. Do not go to an organization and apply for 10 roles when there's only one. Number two, understand what your walk-away items are. Your walk-away items could be pay, vacation, tuition reimbursement, all of those wonderful things. Know what your walk-aways are. And most important, 3, be happy with that final decision. Understanding that, listen, if you want to live in the DMV area, that's Washington, D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, but the ideal career path for you is in California, then you need to decide, do you go to California first, then later on in your career, come to the DMV area? You really have to make a decision that totally is on you. So it's important that you, again, go back to doing the homework. Know what your walkaways are, what your expectations are, and know what that plan is. And as a new graduate, understanding that the first position is not going to be your last position, but make sure it's a position that you're going to actually gain some knowledge from.
Our last question here is a little bit tricky. So what should you do if you accept an offer and then a second, better offer comes along?
I love that. That gives you so much control over this whole process. Now, if you are fresh out of college, or you may not be, you may just be looking for another opportunity, you have 2 or 3 different offers as you just stated. You can compare those offers. If the first job that offered you less, you really liked the position, then you can go back to the recruiter or the hiring manager and express, do you have time to talk? Again, limit what you put in writing. You have time to talk. I was presented with an opportunity. This is what the offer was or is. Will you be able to counter it? Now, whenever you have that letter, understand that some people like to buffer what the letter is. But if that organization asks you for a copy of it and they see that it's a difference, then that'll lose trust. So make sure you're honest, just in case they ask you for a copy of the offer letter. Be honest in what it is that you're asking for. And if you realize that if they tell you no, and you're okay with going with the second company, then you do that. But this time, you're actually in control, so that is great. But whatever that counter offer is, make sure you get it in writing. Do not just take a verbal. Ask for it in writing, just in case the first organization you want to compare or present for an increase has that as well.
All right. Well, those are all the questions we have. Elizabeth, do you have any last pieces of advice or tips that you'd like to give to our listeners?
I want to actually take you to 3. 1, enjoy the journey. Some people think that when you first get out of college that, oh my goodness, the world is about to end. Actually, it's not. This journey of finding your career, finding your niche, enjoy the process. Do not allow it to stress you. Enjoy it. Realize that everything that you went to school for is now going to be the results in this opportunity. Number 2, make sure you know what you want. Do not allow the concern of bills, because everyone's saying, okay, I just need a job. Do not look at it as if, okay, I just need a job to fill a seat, because you may get stuck in that position, which that's important. We want you to get a job. So you need to start this process a year before. A year prior, start looking at the companies ideally that you want to work at. And this leads me to number 3. Develop the relationships with the recruiters before it's time for you to attain that job. You may ask me why. Because recruiters, we all remember the name. We always remember the interaction and passion with that particular applicant that applied for this opportunity. So if you need to obtain additional skill sets prior to this particular role, then you already are doing it while you're finishing up your last year.
All right. Well, that's all that we have for today. For our audience, if you have any follow-up questions or conversation about the program, please contact education@aksci.org. I would like to thank Elizabeth once again for taking time to present to our viewers today, and thank you all for joining us.